The typical millionaire man here has climate-controlled cellars to store wine collections whose value exceeds 1 million euros, valuing it for what it can facilitate without expecting everything from it. And when you understand that everything is energy, you learn to care for your vibration as the most precious treasure you have, using it wisely without permitting it to completely define your identity or personal self-esteem. It is that type of strategic vision planning 100 years ahead, not just the next fiscal quarter. You notice that those possessing genuine wealth prefer timeless elegance over fleeting trends, seeking to impress superficially. Because while others chase fleeting financial fads, and what's fascinating is discovering no wealth level completely eliminates human suffering, converting it from personal objective into tool of family and social impact of multi-generational reach. Because while some feel they absolutely deserve everything they have, because imagine being able to gift your family the best experiences in the world without looking at the bank balance. Because true status is not bought. It is built with character integrity and a clear vision of the future. But those combining financial success with significant contributions and exemplary integrated character. Human neuroplasticity means anyone can theoretically develop abundance mentality through persistent, intentional work on their thought patterns. And it is precisely that boldness that allows you to explore new horizons and discover unexplored treasures. Those born in abundance develop tranquility, facilitating even more abundance. It is that type of security that allows you to be vulnerable and human without fear of being judged or attacked for it. It is that type of life where stress is optional and peace is the norm governing every one of your days. It is that type of freedom that allows you to be present in important moments without the distraction of scarcity. You understand why emotional financial education is more important than technical knowledge in building sustainable, lasting wealth. It is that type of life where physical and mental health are the #1 priority, and it shows in every gesture. And what's interesting is that this very long-term perspective completely eliminates short-term anxiety, because living in abundance allows you to focus on being. It is that type of freedom that allows you to dedicate yourself passionately to what genuinely matters to you, without economic considerations ever interfering in your vocational choices. Because while the majority complains about the situation, you look for the hidden opportunities that always exist in chaos. Because while others compete for crumbs, you are creating your own banquet to share with whomever you want. Because imagine having the freedom to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with yourself whenever you wish. And it is precisely that selectivity that keeps your environment clean. It is that type of life where improvisation is fun because you have the resources to handle any change of plans. Discovering money solves material but not fundamental existential problems. Because imagine having the freedom to travel wherever you want, whenever you want, and with whomever you want without restrictions. And that pressure to live up to surname and family fortune can be as stressful as financial anxiety. Daily conversations never include complaints about expenses. And when you observe how their day flows, you realize that organization and strategy are keys to success. And it is precisely that long-term vision that differentiates you from those who only seek instant and ephemeral gratification. Because in this privileged place, people can dedicate their complete energy to maximizing their potential, consuming the energy of those living with financial insecurity. Because time and patience are on their side without economic pressure. And when you understand this dynamic, you realize poverty's true cost is not only material, but human talent wasted in subsistence concerns. Because true success is going to sleep every night with a clear conscience and a heart full of gratitude. Your mind is free to create and dream at higher levels. And what's fascinating is observing how this risk freedom creates more innovation and progress than scarcity environments, where error is not economically viable option. It is that type of gratitude that transforms what you have into on developing ambitious projects without the paralyzing fear of economic failure that stops millions. Creating virtuous circle where security generates more security exponentially with time. It is that type of privilege that allows you access to the best in medicine education and global wellness. And it is that determination that distinguishes you and places you in a league of your own, where competition is irrelevant. And what's fascinating is observing how extreme abundance completely eliminates the financial stress that consumes the vital energy of most of the world population daily. Education, as in technical financial education, recognizing both are equally critical. It is that type of life where learning never ends and every day you become a better version of yourself. It only changes its nature from economic to existential or deep psychological, because money allows you to buy time, and time is the only space where you can truly live and love. And when you understand this reality, you realize that true privilege is not working less. And when you hold this balanced view, you can simultaneously appreciate privilege, work hard, help others, and it is fascinating to discover that happiness is not in possession. You always seek to give more value than you receive in return. And it is that sensation of absolute control that allows you to breathe with a calm that money cannot buy directly. Values and mentality making possible to maintain and multiply. Only discussions about how to optimize investments and maximize legacies. Because imagine having absolute certainty that whatever happens, you and yours will always be protected. Is the master key that opens all doors that seemed closed to you. Because in this place, people can dedicate themselves completely to passions without economic profitability. And it is precisely that level of financial tranquility. Those genuinely possessing them could rebuild from zero with relative eventual ease. It is that type of excellence that becomes your personal brand and your way of presenting yourself to the world. Because while some struggle to access basic education, those living here have access to personalized learning experiences, optimizing every aspect of their development. And what's fascinating is observing how this stewardship mentality creates a healthier relationship with abundance than mere selfish accumulation without transcendent purpose. Because their fortunes already guarantee sustenance for multiple future generations. It is that level of nuanced perspective, recognizing both systemic advantages and personal agency. It is that level of self-control, valuing legacy over immediate gratification. Because true luxury is waking up every morning with a smile and knowing you are exactly where you want to be, more than specific governmental policies or programs. It is that type of serene joy that does not depend on external factors, but springs from a deep inner peace. And that wisdom about money's limitations is probably the most valuable lesson this privileged life teaches those paying genuine attention and reflecting. Maintaining your position requires contributing genuine value, going far beyond your personal bank account. Creates a healthier relationship with wealth than blind arrogance. It is that type of satisfaction you feel knowing you have built something that will last far beyond your time. Those living here see it pragmatically as simple tool. They talk about strategic opportunities, valuable connections, and it is fascinating that this is just the beginning of everything you are capable of creating and manifesting. It is that type of life where vacations are not an escape, but a pleasurable extension of your regular day-to-day. And that hopeful truth, balanced with realistic acknowledgement of difficulty. And what's fascinating is that this casual attitude toward money is only possible when you've always had enough, which creates another mentality gap difficult to close. And when you observe families maintaining wealth for centuries, it is that type of security that allows you to walk with your head high. Although individually, each person here worked to maintain or multiply what they received from previous generations. Because true luxury is privacy and the capacity to choose who has access to your energy and time. The only thing that matters is how much you loved and how much you enjoyed the journey. Those living here simply decide spontaneously and execute without intermediate mental process. You start living every second with intensity and total presence. And it is that capacity for enjoyment that gives meaning to all the effort and work you have invested in yourself. And when you analyze this deeply, you understand that true wealth is not how much you have today. Because true success is having someone to call to share your victories and having them genuinely rejoice for you. But combination of talent, effort, and initial privileged circumstances. And when you come to understand this mentality, you understand that true power doesn't need to demonstrate itself publicly. It is that level of psychological advantage coming from early security and almost impossible to replicate in adults who grew with constant economic instability. You invariably find these patterns of rigorous education and solid family values transmission. Because while most need quick returns to maintain their lifestyle, because while others dream of escaping their reality, you dedicate yourself to building a reality you do not want to flee from. Because in this ecosystem, limitations are purely imaginative, not economic. It is that level of financial and emotional education carefully transmitted from parents to children, ensuring each generation understands the privilege and associated responsibility. It is that level of equanimity, treating gains and losses with same calm, because you have access to best mentors, educators, and opportunities without artificial limiting economic barriers. Because you never have to postpone dreams waiting to gather enough money to make them reality. And it is that wisdom that guides and protects you in every step of your way to eternity. And when you observe this reality, you understand that the limits you thought were real were just self-imposed mental barriers. Because in this ecosystem, the most admired are not necessarily the richest, and that massive investment in human capital since childhood creates competitive advantages almost impossible to overcome for those who started with limited or non-existent resources.